to Drift with Dan and Dave. That's Dan Houston and Dave Selby. Dave, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm Desperate Dave, and I'm never quite sure whether I'm more desperate or less desperate than Dan, but I think in the course of this we'll find out, really. And something you probably don't know, Dan, is that I am in fact a veteran of 12 transatlantic crossings, all of them on an aeroplane, and one in first class. But it's the passages in steerage that have been most character forming and have made me what I am today, resentful. And one of the reasons I'm resentful is that because I've got a boat called a Sailfish 18, which is a tiny, no money sailing cruiser. And it's been likened to the Reliant Robin of the seas, which I think is unfair to Reliant Robins. And I can't really say more about it than that because it's the subject of ongoing litigation. And to be fair, the Sailfish 18 is more akin to a Portaloo, but without the pretty sheer and windward capabilities. I feel a lot safer in saying that because as far as I know, the Portaloo Owners Club went down the pan some years ago. Oh. So as an owner of a Sailfish 18, I kind of styled myself as a budget boating guru. And my brief really is to share the grief of sailing and its incredible transformative power. Because as you know, Dan, and as I can see, no other leisure pursuit does so much damage to your dress sense or makes golf seem so appealing. And that's what
can I just say, what you're saying that because I've got this orange tank top on.
Well, I think we'll get to that later, Dan. I'm a magazine columnist. I'm also author of a book called The Impractical Boat Owner. I think is a classic of the toilet book genre. And I really gave it a lot of thought because each chapter is exactly the length of a male bowel movement. And I was doing a talk recently, or before lockdown, I was doing a talk and I mentioned that, every chapter the length of a male bowel movement. And this woman put her hand up and she said, "What? 45 minutes?" Now, I shudder to think what her husband was reading, but it suggests a lack of roughage. So basically, I am sailing's answer to trailer trash. And it's just as well that we've got you, Dan, to bring a little class to the operation with your pink Breton slacks that make you look like sort of an outcast from the village people. But nevertheless, you're a classic.
I'm not in pink. Look, I'm standing up. Right, look, no one can see this, but what? Look, these are just, what are they? They're just normal colour corduroys, Dave. It's comfy. I'm wearing comfy today. Pink Breton slacks. That is village people, isn't it? Right.
I think we'd like to know a bit more about you, Dan, because you're a classic.
I'm a classic sailor rather than being a classic, I think. And a classic sailor means actually spending time in boatyards, sandpapering, really. A lot of sandpaper. So it's more dusty than classic, I think, is probably the right description. But I've been around wooden boats pretty much all my life. And I'm actually a man after your own heart here, David, because when I got into boating with a cabin boat, which I think we're both talking about as our form of boating, it was a wooden boat because that was really all I could afford without taking out a second mortgage or a huge loan. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. We had a lot of good times, both in the boatyard and actually at sea. We managed to get around and do quite a bit of cruising over the years. And I eventually ended up restoring from a wreck a wooden boat, which is another story, another time. But I like this idea of budget boating.
Yeah. And also, I'm not really a wooden boat sailor, but I have been on wooden boats. And I understand that it's a completely different mindset because first time I was on a wooden boat, there was actually more water on the inside than on the outside. And, in my world, the fiberglass boat world, we call that sinking. But the guy who owned the boat said, "Oh, no, she's just taking up nicely."
That's right. Yeah, that's entirely right. I mean, you need most wooden boats come with about 16 hand pumps, and you need extra arms, really, like an Indian goddess, to be able to keep the level down. But it's nothing that a pair of good Wellington boots can't usually sort out. And maybe at the beginning of the season, you'd wear your waders for that. Perhaps if it got a bit bad, then a wetsuit and some diving goggles. You can still access all the lockers on board, though, in that situation.
Yeah, because where I live on the East Coast, you're on the South Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and there are loads and loads of wooden boats, barges and things like that around here. And, it's really, really lovely with their beautiful tan sails. And I don't know if you know how the tan sails originated, because it all comes from Essex.
Yeah, it's called a cutch, isn't it?
Not exactly. What it is, so beloved are our Essex maidens of the local sailors that they decided to pay tribute by colouring the sails the same as the Essex girls' skin, really. And they use the same stuff that Essex girls use to make their skin orange, which is a combination of fish guts and creosote. So it's, it's charming.
It does. I never knew that. I'd heard of other things. I'd heard of horse's urine being used in the cutch, but a tanning. That's where tanning comes from. How did I not know that? That's such an obvious thing. Oh, this is going to be great, Dave. We're going to be educating everybody about how things are done.
I suppose it just gives a flavour of how informative we can be.
Yeah, very much so. Well, the idea of this, wasn't it, when we spoke about it a couple of weeks back, was to maybe just talk about some news, some stuff that's happening in the boating industry.
Yeah, what's on your mind, Dan? So what's on your mind in news terms?
I was just looking through some of the stories that have been coming up recently, and I think one that has been exercising people a bit is the proposal post Brexit of paying VAT on the boat already owned. The story is that the government was announcing an extension to this period. It's called the Returned Goods Relief Grace Period. So it's a period of grace to allow people to, I suppose, get their boats back into the UK before they suffer this indignity of HMRC asking them to pay 20%, of course, of the value of the boat, just because they were keeping her in France or Greece or wherever. And that's been extended effectively to the 30th of June 2022. So boat owners will have to repatriate their vessels before that date if they want to avoid paying an additional VAT cost, which sounds a bit draconian from HMRC, but anyway, that's the case.
Okay, now I've got it. That is very, very alarming, Dan, because from my point of view, I've long held a dream of sailing in Ireland, but until now there's been no way of getting there as it's entirely surrounded by water. But at last my hopes of one day wafting down the Shannon in my little Sailfish 18 may one day be realised, as I'm really hoping that by the time we get out of lockdown, Boris will have finished his tunnel. So, that's something to look forward to. And it's going to pose navigational problems because I understand there's going to be a roundabout under the Isle of Man. And if I take the wrong turning, I might end up in a Lidl or Audi car park. And the other great news on this is that I just found out that there's a Scandinavian app billionaire who is proposing a tunnel from Finland to Estonia. So basically, in years to come, we'll be able to take our boats all over Europe without going sailing. So I think that's really, really good news. And the other thing that really doesn't make it too much of a burden for me, the whole VAT issue, is that as my boat is worth nothing, and I haven't done the sums on this, but I think the VAT is going to be minimal. So I think this just about covers everything that I've got to offer on the issue of VAT, which, as you say, is very concerning. And I hope that's of help to people.
Well, Dave, that's an answer. Yeah, I think that's suitably adrift, don't you? I think that's it's a good way to go with that. I love the idea that there's going to be an underground uh, roundabout under the Isle of Man. I hadn't seen those plans, but that's going to be something to look forward to. Never seen that in a tunnel.
It could be quite interesting because most of the sailfish I've seen actually tend to be on roundabouts anyway, with crocuses and daffodils in them. It seems to be their natural habitat. So I'll have to make sure I carry on.
Oh, the poor abandoned sailfishes. Now we mustn't linger on them. Someone will get them out of that roundabout one day and bring them back to life. It always happens with old boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I've got a news story, Dan. I think it's
Excellent.
news. When do you think the first rubber dinghy appeared?
Rubber dinghies would have been around. Oh, I'm not too sure, but well, let's say 1930. Am I going for an exact date or late 1930s?
Yeah, late 1930s. Actually, you're way off, and I would have said the same as you until I learnt more. And I don't know if this is a byproduct of having had the Vauxhall Astra jab, which has made me all a bit Brexity and patriotic and proud of being British. But I've actually since discovered that not only did Brits invent everything, they also invented drowning and sinking, because I've just come across the first ever known picture of a rubber dinghy, and guess which year it was taken in?
So it's a photo. So well, okay, let's go right back. 1901.
No, it's 1851, and it's a photograph. It's a wonderful photograph that I found.
Rubber dinghy.
It was of a rubber dinghy, and it was actually taken at the Great Exhibition of 1851, when, of course, photography was even in its infancy. And I'm pretty convinced that this is the earliest ever photograph of a rubber dinghy. So I looked into the whole history of rubber and stuff like that, and here's what I found out. And in 1823, a Scottish chemist called Charles Mackintosh, he developed a way of bonding rubber to fabric to create a waterproof raincoat material several years before the invention of rain by another Brit. It just makes you proud, doesn't it? And then in the early 1840s, an American, you probably know the name, Charles Goodyear, he got into a patent spat with a plucky Brit called Thomas Hancock over the vulcanizing process of stabilizing rubber. And this led to the invention of lawyers, which spurred the greatest scientific minds in Britain to develop a means of drowning them. And this was ultimately perfected in the 1950s with the development of the Avon Redcrest dinghy.
I was just about to say I had an Avon Redcrest, and I was thinking maybe mine was that one that had been in 1851, because it really consisted of patches. It was never dry, and it was never full.
No, I'll tell you the other thing about this amazing photo from 1851 is it's credited to Mackintosh. So at the bottom, so it appears that this rubber dinghy was made by Mackintosh, but the credit for the photograph is to Henry Fox Talbot. Now, it was only in the 1830s that he developed his photographic process. So it's an incredibly early photograph as well. And of course, I know that over in France, Louis Daguerre, was up to stuff with photography at the same time. But, he wasn't British, was he? So that doesn't count.
So Fox Talbot was taking photos in the 1830s.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm schooled.
There you go.
That's fantastic. And rubber dinghies in 1851.
Oh, and the other really, I've zoomed in on the picture, and there are a lot of rubber products in there. And there's something that looks like a rubber hemorrhoid cushion.
Oh, thank you.
That also goes to show that
we are adrift, and we're now.
It also goes to show that we invented piles.
Yes, yes, very good, David. Yes, I like mooring piles. Very good. Let's talk about those sometime. Right now, look. What's going to happen this summer? People are going to go out and mix or not? Have you had your vaccine?
I have, as I said, I had the Vauxhall Astra one.
Oh yeah, the Vauxhall. Yes, yeah. So does this mean you're going to have the confidence to go out and mix at regattas and social events?
Probably not, and it's not really a question of confidence for me, but the fact, I had a lovely sailing season last summer when we were in lockdown, and I wasn't going into marinas and things like that. And the really strange side effect of this odd world we're living in, where we're isolated and separated, is for some strange reason, when I went away sailing, I found that I appreciated the solitude all the more. So my boat's uncovered now. I'm hoping to be out on the water soon, and it's going to be very, very chilly in my little sailfish, but I really can't wait to be there. And it just, there are regattas and stuff like that, but this whole aspect of sailing just reminds me how lucky we are and how little we need. And we as sailors have got freedoms that other people can only dream of, to be at one with nature. And I just can't wait.
So Southampton, they've notified that they're going ahead with their boat show 10th and 19th of September, and they're hoping that it's going to be a whole new experience. They say they've even found some additional land. I'm not sure where that would be, but they're going to make the show bigger, and I think they think better than ever before. So they're going to have a new entrance, which is going to be outside Southampton's West Quay shopping centre. So I guess that takes it to almost like a more central location, at least to get into the show. They say they're going to have, dinghy zone, a classic boat and day boat zone, which is something. And moving into the Mayflower Park, the big marina that everybody knows afloat. There's going to be hundreds, they say, of power and sailboats.
Oh, I love that. I love the marina aspect of it. And I do love the Southampton Boat Show. I missed it. But I tell you, one of the things I would love to see there, that they used to have the Bewley Boat Jumble. It doesn't exist anymore.
No,
and I love a boat jumble. And I was thinking that, if adjacent or in conjunction with the boat show, they had a boat jumble as well, that would make it even more appealing to me, because there's nothing so much fun as, rummaging around at a boat jumble and buying something that you found you've already got when you get home.
Or something that you desperately need.
Yeah.
Sounds like that never happened to you. I had some good finds at boat jumbles, and yeah, I like you. I miss Bewley. It was a great day out, Bewley. I think they replaced it with a car event, didn't they? So they thought cars were probably a better bet for them.
Well, yeah, they still have the car one. They still have the car. Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to it, and can't wait.
Good. Yeah. Some events are cancelling, of course. Antigua Sailing Week cancelled. They told us that in late February, and in late March, just a couple of weeks ago, we heard that Antigua Classics, Carlo Falcone and the committee have decided to cancel the Antigua Classics week. So that's not going to be going on until 2022. Other things have cancelled. I know the big festival of Brest was planned even for next year, and they've put that back to 2024. So some people are cancelling, some people going ahead.
Yeah, it's a great shame about Antigua Classics, because I was going to take my sailfish along as cabin baggage. Just about fit in the overhead locker.
You should go there. You'd love it. Nice big waves. The rum is good.
Your pink Breton slacks.
They get very salty out there. They're no longer pink. They go a kind of coral. Yeah, that's in fact that's where you want them. You want them out there so that they can actually bleach out enough to be wearable without getting on that website called my
freaking red trousers.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we heard, for instance, Brixham Regatta just told us yesterday, I think, or the day before, they're going to go ahead on May 29th, 30th. You ever been to that regatta, Dave? Brixham?
Brixton Regatta.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I've only ever been cruising in Brixton.
that's something else, Dave. We better move on.
Okay.
Brixham in Devon is the event, and it's lovely because they've got these big old Brixham trawlers, ketch rigged, and they go off sailing out there. And I know that's usually a fantastic event to go and see. Finishes with fireworks, etc. So it's a good one. That'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah, no, I love all that because I'm not a racing sailor. You know, I always say I go sailing to slow down, not speed up. And I say if I was in a real hurry, I'd walk. But the real reason I do go racing is when we have a beautiful thing here like the Malden Town Regatta on the River Blackwater, which I'm looking at out of my window. I go to be part of the pageant because you've just got a grandstand view of all the beautiful smacks and classic yachts, and that's what makes it so memorable. So I'm so grateful to all those people who put so much effort into them to keep them going, whereas I put no effort into my sailfish whatsoever, and yet it still gives me an awful lot of pleasure.
Really? So I'm not sure about the dates for Malden Town Regatta. I'm not sure we've been notified about that yet. It's always at the end of the season in any case, so plenty of time to plan for it. But about a couple of weeks ago, again, entries opened up for the Round the Island race, which is a very popular, well, it used to be very, very popular, oversubscribed race with sort of 1,700 boats taking place. That's set for the 3rd of July. But I took a look earlier on today, and it's only 741 entries. So that was interesting because normally it's sold out. It has sold out in a couple of days before now. So I think people are still being a bit reticent.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done the Round the Island race or anything like that, and the only reason I go sailing is to get a grandstand view to watch the other boats. But although I've not done Round the Island race or in terms of the Isle of Wight, I have done a race round Canvey Island in my sailfish, which is particularly challenging as there are 4 bridges to get under, so you have to get your mast down. But it was a truly spectacular event. It's my kind of racing, where racing combines with sort of it's a knockout, really.
Yeah, I like those. There's a great race I'd love to do actually called the Three Rivers race, and it's an overnight race. And that's the same. You shoot bridges, and it's about boat handling as much as anything else. It sounds like a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's also about fighting, and because it was actually I've done it 3 or 4 times in a sailfish, and I think it started in 1948. And the thing is, you get these beautiful sort of gaffers, these broad cruisers, these gaffers that are coming down a narrow river, and they've got their boom out on one side, and basically you're coming in a sailfish and the other way, and you just have to ram yourself into the reeds to avoid getting run down. And the wonderful thing about it is you're allowed 24 hours to complete the course. You choose your own route. So everybody else is going different ways. And when you get to one of the bridges like Potter Heigham, it's like jousting. There's one boat coming through the span one way and another trying to push the other way. And I once saw this beautiful old gaffer with a bowsprit put its bowsprit straight through the window of a fiberglass boat and just broke the window out. And that's the kind of mayhem on the water. The thing I love about it is that if they invented it today, it would not be allowed, a bit like motorcycle racing on the Isle of Man. So it's wonderful that things like that exist. And I've had so many wonderful adventures doing it. I tell you, one year we did it and we were wafting up a river sort of through the dead of night, and it's magical. You have these moments where you're chilly and cold, but it was magical. And we were just making our way very slowly up a river, and we were ghosting past a series of hire boats, and it was so serene and quiet. we could hear the people snoring by our boats. And as we went past each one, you could hear the change in tone of the snoring. It's a beautiful and magical event. I'd do it again.
Lovely picture. That's a nice thought. Yeah. Yes, night sailing. Well, we must talk about night sailing sometime, Dave. That would be a subject close to my heart.
Yes. I suppose, I mean, the other thing we've got to talk about, which is kind of my big issue, is should sailing be more like Formula One? And
well, you were talking about this being really the way the America's Cup is going from the latest out in Auckland.
Yeah, no, I've got this thing about it, because you remember earlier in the year there was the Vendée Globe, and then there was people rowing across the Atlantic, and then there was the America's Cup, and there was this report in the Times that it said it looks like sailing is becoming more popular because more people are watching it on TV. And all I could think was, this is only going to lead to a sort of boosting sales of faux leather recliners. I think, sailing to inspire should encourage participation. And then I saw that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who backs Sir Ben Ainslie to the tune of 120 million, has this idea that sailing should be, or that the America's Cup should be more like Formula One. And that's a message that I'm very uncomfortable with, because Formula One is in decline.
How does he mean like Formula One? In what sense?
In terms of technology at the very, very peak of the sport, and that it should be technology driven and elite. But to me, it sort of detaches further from what sailing is all about, because I mean, the basic fact is only 20 people in the world do Formula One. But the real issue I have with it, as someone who used to work in classic cars and motor racing, is I know that audience figures for Formula One are plummeting, and there are reasons for that. So I don't want sailing to go down the same rabbit hole. And one of the reasons for that is that when Sir Ben Ainslie won his 4 Olympic golds, we knew he was competing on a level playing field in like boats. That means we knew he was the best. Now, if you come to modern Formula One, we no longer know who's the best because of the disparities in technology and funding for the teams.
That is the same as the America's Cup, isn't it? It's driven by technology. I think the idea of the deed of gift that was given by the New Yacht Club was that it would promote technology and ways of sailing faster. Are you saying that's not a good idea?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so, because I think the message of it is that it makes sailing seem less attainable and more elite. And I don't think that's necessarily a positive thing. And the sad thing is, when we look at the America's Cup, we actually no longer know who is best. I've been reading about it, and it's a completely technology driven thing. In effect, poor old Ben Ainslie didn't stand a chance, from what I understand, because he was in effect racing a back of the grid or midfield Williams against the front of the grid boat. And so that's one of the reasons I think that people will disengage from it in the way that they're disengaging from Formula One. We don't know who's best anymore.
Yes. You're never going to democratize a sport like that, are you? It sounds crazy.
No, but it does. I mean, the other thing that exercised me about it was one aspect of the lack of diversity in the America's Cup. So I had a look online, and I found this press release saying women rule the waves in the America's Cup. Wow. And I thought, great. So I went to look at it, and there was this press release, and it said women ruling the waves in the America's Cup, which began a young girl who once sent $5 to an embattled America's Cup team is now among the women on the water, helping run the contest for the old mug. Now, so she's not even taking part. She's an umpire, and I thought this was patronising. And if you bear with me, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just self-identify as a woman.
Oh wow!
Yeah, well, I've just transitioned, Dan, and it smarted. But the idea was that that press release, which sort of pretended to sort of be inclusionary, actually highlighted how non-inclusive the sport is. So as a woman, which I'm now self-identifying as, I'm as enraged by that as I would be if I was in my local sailing club and the captain, the male captain at the end of the day sailing, and said a special thanks must go to the ladies of the galley who put on a splendid spread while we were working up an appetite on the water. Okay, I'd be very interested to hear what women say. Hang on, right, I've just transitioned back into a bloke now.
Oh, good. Yes, I noticed. Yeah, that's you're more like your old self. Good.
But and then it really got me thinking about the America's Cup, which is a deed of covenant and stuff like that. And basically, the winning team can set the rules. So if they really wanted to be inclusionary, why didn't they just say half the crew of each boat got to be women?
It would be good, wouldn't it, to see women doing something like that? I mean, that would be fantastic. They make some pretty good sailors. They always have. Let's face it.
Yeah, no, and the other thing about the America's Cup, now that I've looked into it, there was some guy who was sort of talking about the technical aspects of it the other day, and he said all you need is a helm, someone at the helm, and then the other person to operate all the hydraulics, basically from a laptop or some kind of module. And so the whole thing about strength appears to have been taken out. So it seems to be more and more reasons that it should be a mixed sport. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, I thought these guys were hairy gorillas with biceps and shoulders bursting out of their plastic clothing, but you say that it's different.
I may be wrong, but I think I'm right, because I was reading this thing and it said, that everything's controlled by hydraulics now, and so that means it can be an even more level playing field, and it would be wonderful. Because I suppose the other thing was when I was thinking about the Vendée Globe and stuff like that, and I can't remember there were 3 or 4 women, but the really sad thing was that all the women taking part were in boats up to 20 years old.
Yes.
And although their achievements were sterling, we got to remember that Anne MacArthur came second in it. She was at the front of the field competing to win. And I'm wondering, have we gone backwards? And why are these great women sailors not getting the support? Again, we're going to have to try and find a woman to talk to about it.
Well, that's very interesting. From what you've just said there, we've gone backwards, haven't we? Maybe the America's Cup is the beacon. It's the beacon event of the sport, isn't it? Maybe it should be leading the way.
Yeah, I've just looked at the numbers, Dan, and Pip Hare, she was in a 21-year-old boat. Clarice Kramer was in a 10-year-old boat, and Samantha Davies was in a 10-year-old boat. So I'm just wondering why these women are not getting the support, and it would be lovely if they did. And also the other thing is, it'd be very, very nice to talk to a woman sailor about this to get their perspective on it. I think that's very important.
Well, with the wonders of technology, hopefully we can do something like that. I have a feeling this is a topic that is going to carry on. Yeah, it's going to be something that interests us in the future, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, Dan, we ought to sort of probably wrap this edition up, because you've utterly exhausted me, and I don't think it's yet clear which one of us is the more desperate, but that will emerge over the time. But it's been great fun chatting with you.
Well, can I just say, I like the way you infer that I'm desperate, Dan. That's and that's okay, because it's my name's Dan, so obviously it's got to be desperate Dan. But I don't eat cow pie anymore. I don't. I don't eat cow pie at all. I haven't eaten cow pie. I've never actually eaten cow pie as such. I've had a steak and kidney pie. I don't eat cow pie now, and I haven't eaten anything to do with a cow for, well, it's several years now. So can I just say, I'm not desperate in that sense.
Yeah, and I'll just say I'm not even going to try to get the last word in. Oh, we're done, aren't we? That's lovely.
Right, that's it. We are adrift, and we're heading back in on the tide.